Whenever a teacher goes through a topic or exams are near, only one thing comes to our mind: grind note taking. Cram it right before the exam week. I'm going to rewrite the textbook to remember everything, and I need to finish my notes for the exam by tomorrow are common phrases I heard during the exam rush. But you watch SM Ashaf and you're calm and composed because you have finished the needed. But first, let's address the elephant in the room. Should I write or type notes? Write it down would be my advice. This ties into my first point: do not be a scribe. We all have a habit of copying down the notes, maybe even the same ones multiple times from the textbook, because we think it will help us retain the information by getting familiar with it. Even if you do not write your notes word to word with your textbook, I am sure many of you refer to your textbooks or teachers while taking the notes, because I used to do it all the time. You would want to avoid a large portion of this because you are just transcribing the information without even processing it. Research by Princeton and UCLA has shown that rereading handwritten notes triggers memories of processing that information, and I vouch that I have experienced this. You remember your thought process of how you understood the information and wrote it in your own unique way, which is why you can so effectively recall it. Handwriting notes also stimulates more parts of the brain, unlike typing it out, leading to stronger neural pathways being formed. You must make sure you fully understand the information before you write it down. Notebooks are not there to help you understand topics. Notebooks are for writing down what you have understood for later reference. While typing notes is much easier and faster than writing it down, its convenience will tempt you to take notes without even understanding them, because we think more notes equals to better retention. So, what can we do about it? Tip number 1. You want to make sure your notes are structured. A con of writing notes is scribbling it down at available places, leading to legibility issues. If you are unsure with structure, this one time refer to the textbook and observe how the content is arranged. By physical position, by importance, by complexity, look at the subheadings of a textbook to gain ideas. Tip number 2. Write from memory. After you've actively recalled the information, write it down in words you feel convey the statement best. Only after you've written it, refer to the textbook and look for mistakes and gaps left to correct the notes. Let it reinforce the forgotten information. The third tip is to write the information in bullet points. This helps you keep your notes short and concise, avoiding irrelevant jargon. It is also easier to recall shorter, denser pieces of information during exam periods. The fourth tip would be to add figures and pictures. If you can't draw it out, you can print it out and stick it on your notebook. These figures make the notes easier to understand because naming parts for an organ, for example, would be very hard unless you have a picture right next to it. Label your diagram with pieces of information and personalize it. The fifth tip would be to add in tedious example questions and frequently asked questions. This will help you test your knowledge of the notes and expose you to applying those concepts. When a teacher goes through a difficult example next time, write it down. The next tip would be to avoid perfectionism. This is not a sketchbook, it's a note. You do not want to spend hours perfecting your handwriting font or making it look neat. Do, however, highlight your notes when needed, but keep it in moderation. The seventh tip would be to take notes over a consistent basis throughout evenly spaced periods of time. Do not cram them right before exams, because this would lead to scribing of information, as said before. Do remember, taking notes for all subjects is hard, so prioritize the most difficult ones first. And the last tip would be to try mind mapping. For die-hard digital note takers out there, this is much better than your standard Word document. You are able to visually remember the flow of information because mind maps are more organized, fluid, and interconnected. The material feed off each other. Also visually pleasing since you can add online pictures and have flexible fonts. Here is an example of bad note taking. And here is an example of good note taking. I hope the above said information helped you with note taking, easing the toll on exam revision. I will now put on screen the 8 tips of note taking. Have a good look at the summary and internalize it. Here's your first actionable step to good note taking. Write down this summary in your diary or notebook. I'm not joking. Just do it. This is your fellow student signing out.